coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
This is 12 Gauge Investigative. Let's jump in.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight on this Sunday evening? Like I said a while ago, hope you are doing great. Got this hat on. Don't know if I really like it, but it'll work. Whatever. My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. Wanted to get on here a little bit and spend some time with you guys and talk some criminal distortions. And if you don't know what those are, hopefully by the time that we finish this, you will understand it, you will know it, and I'll also show you how some of this could play into the crime that is known as the case versus Brian Christopher Koberger, or the Idaho 4 murders, whichever you want to talk about it. I'm not going to play the other one where I'm talking through it because no sense in me being double on here. Hopefully, I got some feelers out for some people to be able to come up here later on. So hopefully, some people will be able to join me. If not, I'll do it myself. I do want to talk about some different avenues of the Idaho 4 case because there's a lot of stuff going around every single day. And if you haven't watched any of my last two videos, I recommend that you do because they're very informative and they're very broken down and they're very theory driven based on factual information that I believe is based on the PCA and the document that have been dropping over time. So go check those out. Let me say hello to some of the people in the chat. Rondi Potter, hello. Aquarius, how you doing? Southwest Firefly, good to see you again. PKC, good to see you. Doc, how's it going? And as we wait on other people to come into the chat, or if this is going to be everybody, it doesn't matter one way or the other. We're all here, and eventually people will either come in or they won't. It's a Sunday, and you know how Sundays are for families usually, so I don't ever expect a high volume of people, especially during this time of night, because usually they're eating dinner or cooking dinner or things like that, and it's a high volume time, especially if they're getting ready for Monday. Getting stuff ready for the week, which I have to do a little while later, but decided to hop on here and spend some time with you guys. It's a hot one in Texas. I don't know how the weather is around where you're at, but it's a hot one in Texas. Hot. Um, so how many of you, before I start this, how many of you in the chat have an understanding of what a criminal distortion is? Without Googling it, how many of you know what that is? If y'all would put your answer in the chat, let's see who the closest ones are. Don't Google it. Anybody? I don't know. Nope. Let's see. Anybody else want to take a guess? Without Googling it, what's a criminal distortion? Don't know. Okay. Well, let me entertain you with some criminal distortions. Criminal distortions are basically how a mindset of a criminal minded person looks at the world. Their distortion is unlike regular thinking patterns. I'll have to change this, of course. Because when it comes to normal quote unquote thinking patterns, we all have a variety of rights and wrongs, and we don't try to make avenues in our thinking patterns match up to get us what we believe we are owed or to a portion of how are we going to get over on somebody. The first one says all or nothing thinking. You look at things to the absolute, black and white categories. So all or nothing thinking is basically it's either this or it's that. There's no in between. So a lot of times whenever there's individuals with, and I'm saying criminal minded, that could be anybody, okay? It doesn't necessarily just mean that criminals have this way of thinking. There's unhealthy people in the world that have this thinking. So don't just think that it's just criminals, even though it is a criminal checklist. Overgeneralization, you view a negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. Mental filters. You dwell on the negative and ignore the positives. You discount the positives. Your insight on your accomplishment or positive quality don't count. So what does this have to do with the Idaho 4? And many times individuals have asked that question to me because as I was going over this, look at who I have on panel. As I was going over this, me and this individual were talking about how these areas of criminal minded thinking has attributes toward distortive outcomes. So let's say that you believe that rules don't apply to you, or that you have the mentality where it's your way or no way, or you feel vindicated or owed a particular thing because somebody has wronged you or somebody has wronged somebody in your family. So therefore you feel like, okay, quote unquote, the disclaimer is everyone is out to get you. Everyone is like that. All people are like that. Those types of individuals are categorized in a box and you are not able to see outside that limited thinking pattern. So, since we're talking about the Idaho 4 case, let's see what me and Nina were talking about on the panel. Okay.
What's going
Now,
on?
I was kind of confused at the email that you sent me earlier. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, that's what me and Sirius was talking about too.
So I was wondering if you might explain.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if you wanted me to bring up another creator and you know how some people are, can't
You don't
bring up
have
another.
you don't have to name them. I mean, you
Oh.
can just say, I saw this on another.
Well, no, there's a creator that's got a video out talking about the federal grand jury and stuff like that, and that it's coming back to multiple victims before Idaho court.
Okay.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, this case is getting stranger by the day. It really is.
I mean, it's like, there was a creator that used to reference WSU mom to a tumbleweed because you know how a tumbleweed will pick up everything as it rolls.
Right.
And just get bigger and bigger. And it's like, that's how this case is doing.
Yeah, I remember that creator. She used to call her Kimberweed or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, but what got me was, okay, at the beginning of that video, the 911 call.
Yeah.
Okay, that's shots fired, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that ravioli character that I talk about,
Mm-hmm.
he did a video the other day, and not promoting him, but he has the timestamp, and it sounds just like a gun cocking, clicking, and
Mm-hmm.
so you've got him putting out a video about a gun, then you've got this 911 phone call about a gun, and then I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but the crime scene person that defense hired, he is actually the one that worked on Tupac's case.
Okay.
I mean, like 95% of his expertise is guns and trajectory of bullets and shooting from cars, and and I'm like, why are you bringing a gun to a knife battle? And then bam, I'm like, whoa. But do you remember that Christy also said, and Sirius is in here, so she can correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't she say something about the family member called, said something went wrong at a party, and that something about the girls got shot or something?
Yes, that Kaylee was supposedly shot.
And I
Yeah.
do know that the police will keep things from you.
Okay.
You
I
know,
mean, I'm not here to debunk. I mean, this has picked up speed as of recent for whatever reason. It's picked up speed. Do you all have any understanding of why this would be relative at this point? Because if you remember early on in the case, it was described a lot that Kaylee had potentially been shot. There had been individuals that contacted the family, and we're talking about, there had been a shooting, and Kaylee had been shot. I don't really understand that aspect because, we've been told from day one that they were stabbed. So I don't know where that kind of picked up steam. I don't know where or why. And that's why I'm inviting Nina up here to kind of clarify what she was talking about up here. Because I don't have a clue as far as the shooting aspect of it. Does anybody in the chat have anything to do or understand the shooting aspect of this theory? Does anybody in the chat have any understanding of why they would mention a possible shooting of any of the four victims? Because I saw something earlier that stated that, or actually another creator was saying that Ethan was shot and the others were totally different. Is that just for clicks and views, or is that true? Can y'all help me out here? Because if it's for clicks and views, I understand it. But if it's a real thing, I'd really like to discuss it a little bit because I've never heard anything about the gun theory. Well, that's a little bright. Says, wasn't Christy initially told by her niece or something early? They were told by LA. Let me put you up here, Nina. Okay, I'm going to take that video down because I'm going to play another one. That's not the one that I wanted to play. And it's more of an educational one rather than one that kind of goes into what I usually do on here. I don't really like to do those when I'm live because it's really monotonous. How's it going, Nina?
It's a good one. I'm trying to send you something.
Do what?
It's a good one. I'm trying to send you something.
Are you emailing
That's
it
gonna
to
help.
me?
Yeah, I'm emailing it to you right now.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about this theory.
Okay. Well, if you'll remember in the very beginning, I think it's like one of the first interviews that Christy gives. She says that I think her niece called and said that there had been a shooting at a party or something like that. And she made it sound like Maddie and Kaylee had gotten shot at a party.
Okay, I remember that. So how
Okay.
did it go?
Then,
How did it go from there? And then people quit talking about it. Now it's all of a sudden
well,
they're
I think because everybody just went with the whole stabbing, 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 and no gun, no gun, no gun. But you know yourself that sometimes the law enforcement and people like that will keep things that only the perpetrator would know. And so, as far as anybody's concerned, they were all stabbed. So if somebody confessed and said, well, I shot blah, 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 and I stabbed blah, 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 then they're going to know that that person's probably telling the truth.
okay. So
Then if you consider we've all hung on to the words of the injuries don't match. Wasn't that Steve's exact words, was the injuries don't match?
right, right.
Well, a gunshot wound and a knife wound is not going to match.
Okay, this says from Paula Washington, Nodal
This
Scientific.
is is that the one for me? This is his qualifications. I think it's like 20 pages.
Okay,
But if you look at it, it's all ballistics. And I mean, don't get me wrong, he is a crime scene recreation expert. He is. I will not take anything
there.
away from him.
Yeah, right here.
But oh my
He's,
gosh, his ballistics is crazy.
yeah, he seems to be very extensive. And is he testifying for? He's also a toxicologist. Has he? Is he testifying for the prosecution or for the defense?
No, he's defense's witness. He's the defense expert.
Okay. Okay, he's
And
worked
I
with
mean,
the
what it
most.
was I was going through my pictures and I found a bunch of pictures where it was talking about her expert was scanning the crime scene and doing this and doing that. And I was like, well, I want to know who their crime scene expert is. And so I zoomed in on the picture and got his name and looked him up. And I was like, whoa. And I mean, this was months ago I found that. But I didn't put it out because you know me. I mean, I don't put anything out unless I can verify it.
Right, right.
And I mean, I'm
Well,
not verifying anything. I'm just saying, look, y'all, 2 is not adding up to 4 right now.
well, his.
I mean,
I
this
mean,
is a
to be
man that works.
fair, not to take anything away from Ray, but this is a lot more extensive than anything he's done. It's totally different areas of expertise, granted. But this
A
guy has
freaking
done a
expert.
lot. Yeah, this is quite extensive, specialized training.
And I mean, when you
And this,
work on Tupac shooting, but tell me that 95% of it's not ballistics.
well, yeah, but
Okay, one
at
of
the
the
same
things,
time, at the same time, let me ask you this: What
okay,
was they did find some weapons at Brian's house in the inventory that they collected and all that
it was
stuff.
a gun. Yeah, a gun.
Yeah, not weapons. Or yeah, they found the gun, the clips, no ammunition. Um,
Right. But
so
one person could do it with a gun and a knife.
well, of course,
I mean, one
but
person could do it with a knife, but
And also, we're smart enough to know that if you wanted to shoot somebody with a Glock, you could silence it with a pillow, or you could put it right against their body and pull the
Right,
trigger. You
right.
wouldn't necessarily hear a lot of noise, but I mean, I don't know about the shooting part of it. I mean, I'm open to it, but
Well, I mean,
I'm, this is
okay, you know
expensive.
the part of the wall where they cut out of Maddie's wall?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I was thinking about that and I was like, why would they only take that one square? You can't tell me that it just went in that one square. And if you'll remember looking at her picture of her sitting at her desk, if I'm not mistaken, that has a mirror.
yeah.
And
I'll pull that picture.
if it has a mirror, then the blood splatter would have gone on the mirror, not the wall.
I don't know why they
So
did it
in
the
order
way
to
they
get
did.
something out of the wall, that means it had to go through the mirror.
But also, think about this a little bit. If them cutting that part out, okay, what I just don't know unless this gun had a silencer on it that it would. I'm just
Yeah,
trying
but
to.
I mean, you don't think he would know how to make a homemade something?
Well, I'm trying to work with you here.
Think
Hold
of
on.
it. You saw him with a vacuum.
Hold on a second. Don't attack me, damn it. Uh,
I ain't attacking you.
I'm
She
not
saw him
saying
with
your
a vacuum.
theory. I'm not saying your theory is wrong. I'm just saying I'm
Oh,
trying to
oh,
jump.
oh, I'm not saying my theory is right. My
I'm
theory
not.
could be as messed up as anybody else's.
Okay, there's that picture right there.
Shit, I can't see. Is there a mirror?
No, no mirror.
But what's that? So that there's got to be because you can see the curtain in it.
Okay, there's the mirror. You're right. Right there.
Okay, you see? Now then, you tell me why they would cut a wall out behind a mirror.
Do you think the gun discharged by
I think,
accident?
I don't know, but I think the bullet went through the mirror and was lodged in the wall.
I mean, I could possibly get on board with that, but there's been no mention of that though.
But they don't, okay, you take somebody that, okay, for instance, John Bonet Williams, they didn't tell about the garrote, okay? Because a garrote is such an unusual weapon, right?
Okay.
And so that was something they kept from the public was the garrote being the weapon. And I'm not saying it happened. All I'm saying is that they will keep stuff from the public for these crazy lunatics that go around confessing.
Okay. So are you saying that possibly Brian confessed to that?
No, I'm saying I think they found the bullet and it matched the gun they found
So why would they hire the expert?
because she hired the defense hired the expert.
For what
That's the
purpose?
reason. And it may not even be Brian. She's saying there was a second perpetrator.
Oh, so that's why the expert's being called?
Well, I mean, look, I didn't know we was going to be doing this today, or I'd have done a whole lot more research.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying this on the fly.
Yeah. Well, you ain't kidding.
I mean, we're just having a conversation.
Well, I mean,
We're not.
I just don't want anybody saying that we're putting out like any kind of misinformation or disinformation. This is all hypothetical and my crazy thoughts.
Okay. That's fine.
Now
That's fine. I
that
can
the
I can
disclaimer
dig
is
that.
out there.
I can dig that. I really can because I mean I heard that on that video and I was like, okay, Nina has Nina has talked about this in this video and now people are talking about this in other videos. So I'm trying to figure out where they would have got that theory from, because I never heard of a gun being used, but it seems like people are running with this in other avenues. So I was just wondering.
Well, you know how I feel about ravioli. And I mean, and the thing about it is in his video at the very beginning, you hear click, click, you know, and then it shows a video of somebody cocking a gun, and that's exactly what it sounds like.
In what video, Nina?
Okay, it's
I'm not going to show his stuff, but what video are you talking about that you hear a gun, like
well,
what
I
sounds
mean,
like a gun
it's
clicking?
in it's in one of the Linda lanes,
Okay.
and it's. I mean, it's not one that's been messed with or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And but his video says that the person is uh coming through Linda Lane walking, and he cocks his gun. Now, I'm not saying I'm on board with any of his theory, but I'm just saying that. And if Jeff was here, he could probably tell you. But in one of those videos of Linda Lane, it said that that's the sound that it makes. I don't know what else could make that sound because it's a very distinct.
Well, I mean, I think I know what you're talking about. And also, to be fair, if you're walking on gravel, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right. And Salty, I know, look, I didn't know we were going to be discussing this. He sort of kind of put me on the spot. I mean, I didn't put out a video about this. I didn't go public with this. It was
show us
just a little, it was
show
a
us
crazy thought in my head that Gage
show us
decided to
some
put out.
hey, show us some grace, salties. Show us some grace. We're not putting anything out there that, as being factual.
No, I mean, I guess
I
my
was asking
explanation,
her I was asking her where that came from, because that video that I was showing a while ago, you had mentioned this way back when. You remember? You just heard it. So I was like, I was just saying, I was wondering where that came from. You know what I mean? That makes sense, Nina?
yeah. Oh, Salty, nobody's upset. We just saw where it said no gun, and we didn't want you to think that we were saying there was a gun.
Yeah, we're not saying there's a gun. We're just merely just talking about the
But I
situation.
think that's where it's coming from is in the beginning where Christy said that, there was a fight or something at a party and that the girls got shot at a party. And then the
Right.
sound, it sounds like a gun. And then the expert being a ballistics expert, it's just those things coming together and people are running with it. That's the reason I never went public or anything, just because I've said, well, dang, there's things that I won't go public with, but unfortunately I just did.
Right. Right. But also, the reason I brought it up to you is because I've seen other people talking about
Right.
a
Oh yeah, it's
gun,
going on.
about Ethan being shot
Yes.
and the others being stabbed. So I was like, okay, so if Nina was talking about this the other night, is there something that I missed along the way that maybe you had seen or somebody else had seen? And, I didn't know what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. No, no. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I don't feel like we're doing anything wrong. I mean, I put my disclaimer out there that this is just crazy thoughts, and
yeah, it's
that I'm not at all trying to put any kind of misinformation, disinformation, or anything out there.
well, people can take it as they want. I don't care what people think. I'm not putting nothing out there that other people haven't already talked about the last couple
Right.
days. There are a lot of people talking about a gun potentially being used, and I'm trying to just ask a question as to if you heard early
Right.
on something that I may have missed, because I'm not. I don't watch this stuff every day, and I'm not scouring over documents and all this stuff hours and hours and hours. And no disrespect to the people that do. I'm just saying that I'm not one of those. So that's why a lot of times I lean on some people that I know that, have a little more insight than I do on these things. And I was wondering if you had any relevant or if it was just conspiracy talk where the gun was supposedly used on Ethan and,
I think as far as putting it out there a I guess what I could say, a real narrative. You know what I'm saying? I
mhm,
mean, I don't. I mean, if I trusted that narrative as much as I trust like videos that I've made or statements I've made on panel, I would have already come out with it. You know,
right.
um, and I don't think that it is I don't think that it's anything with any substance. I think that it could be with the people that are putting it out there. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because of the way the narrative's being put out.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Of course it does. Of course it
I mean,
does.
because they are good storytellers.
I mean, I was just wondering if it was actually something.
I
Hell,
mean,
people have been
that
stating
made
that
me
there was
go
new.
home.
I mean, people have been stating that there were new documents. I saw something said, you know, new documents released, blah blah blah. And I went to the website, didn't see
No,
anything
no,
about
no,
it.
no, 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 no.
And
There
I
is
thought,
nothing.
well, was I thought this, is this something that was in a prior document? So
No,
yeah,
no. And
and
I
then
hope that
they,
everybody will back me up on that. Salty, you've read every document. And I mean, as far as, because I was like a week behind when all the documents started coming out. But as far as I know, there is no kind of confirmed or document or anything like that that can be trusted.
yeah, I mean, it's Sunday. It's not that important. I mean, it's not that life or death.
Right.
People know I don't put out conspiracy, so I'm not worried about one way or the other. I mean, if they think what they want. We could put out factual information document wise. We could highlight,
They
we
still
could
going to
have
call it out on it.
10 grams of evidence and people are still not going to pay attention to it. But we say, oh, there was a gun used or there might have been a bullet in the wall. Then all of a sudden, oh my God, their ears perk up. So, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, that's what I
y'all,
was explaining
y'all are
is
smart
that's
enough
what
in
people are
chat to
wanting.
know You are smart enough in chat to know who we are up here on this panel, and we don't put that type of information out there. So we're not about to start. We're just merely just talking about. I asked her a simple question, and she was giving me her thoughts and understanding of it. I
He
appreciate
put me on
y'all
the
being
spot.
in here, though. Yeah, I put you on the spot. Sometimes that's the best way to get. That's the best way to get an honest answer. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
because
That's
I
the
mean, I'll
best
be
way.
honest about it.
Yeah, that's the best way to get an honest answer is put somebody on the spot because they don't have time um to really
But
think of a way out. You know what I'm saying?
the thing about it is, I think the reason it's coming out now is because of Nodell's 20 pages of credentials. And that's what a lot of people, because that's what made me say, wait a minute, so I can understand where they question it, but that's all I did was question it and I let it go.
Yeah,
But
because
now with the
I've never
things
thought
coming down,
I've
some of
never
them
thought
have to keep the
that.
narrative going, and that's a good way to keep the narrative going.
Right. But to be fair, also to the chat, we have heard of a gun being taken as evidence from his residence in Albrightsville. So you know,
Right. I mean, it was said that they found a
Okay.
gun, a mask, and a glove in a bag.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, whether he was an expert marksman, whether, you just never know about these things. You just never know because people were, I mean, to be fair, and I'm not talking conspiracy here. I'm talking about early on because nobody really had any documents at that point. Nobody had any PCA, none of that stuff. There were people, honestly, when, like you said, the wounds don't match. People were running with that. The wounds
Right.
don't match. So, was there two weapons? Hell, I even talked about two weapons. I talked about was there two K-bar knives used? Why would he
Right.
have brought just one K-bar knife in the residence? You know,
But
looking back
too, if
on
you're
it
gonna,
today, what?
I mean, like she said that his credentials go further, and I totally agree with that. His credentials are. Let me tell you, there can nobody argue with this man's credentials. It
Of
just
course.
surprised me that 95% of it is ballistics. And that's not taking anything away from his toxicology expertise, his crime scene recreation expertise, or anything like that. The man is all around expert 100%.
Hmm. And we really don't know if he's going to have testimony on any of that. It could be toxicology
I
or,
think I think it's on the oh my gosh, what's it called? It's the scan. Ferris scan.
Pharaoh
Is that what it is?
scanning, the
Yeah, that
360 Pharaoh.
yeah, because he's the one that's going to be doing for the defense, and I don't know who the prosecution's using.
Right.
I mean, has anybody put out their? I mean, has their credentials been dropped yet?
Well, the latest thing that I saw was about the jury questionnaires. You know, that's what I saw, the latest thing, the latest documents or whatever. But they still haven't really released any kind of witness list or anything like that.
But I mean,
So
the question's been asked about the mirror and the wall. Of why take the wall out behind the mirror. I mean, that's a legitimate question.
I even asked that on one of my lives. I said, "What was on that wall that made them cut
Right?
that wall out?
Exactly.
What was on
I
that
mean, and
wall?"
right there in that picture, you'll see another little one that looks like a cutout. But what I noticed looking at the pictures is that's what their vents look like.
I mean, to be fair,
So I don't think.
you know what? People can chill. We're gonna call this speculation Sunday. I'm gonna be speculative today. And if you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm looking for that damn picture. I'm looking for that damn picture, and I cannot find it.
I mean,
I don't.
the research.
I
The
honestly
research.
don't think. I honestly don't think there was a gun or a bullet or any of that stuff. But as far as being 100%, politically correct, I'm not going to hold myself or anybody else in this live to that because it's Sunday, man. It's been a long ass week. Been a long ass week. I just want to get up here and talk a little bit.
You don't think? Oh my! The heart's covering up Salty's comment. I can't see it. You don't think I'm being chill just by chatting? Oh yeah, Salty, you're always chill. I don't think you could get unchilled.
Of course, I'm not saying anything toward anybody. I'm just
No,
talking.
And I mean, when I was talking about, there could be a bullet to go through. I mean, look, that was my crazy thoughts of where people are going with it.
If anybody has that photo of that wall, please send it to me to my email.
Oh, I do.
I've had that damn photo like 3 times and I can't find it to save my life.
I mean,
You
you've
know,
seen the crazy research that I've sent around today.
because that is a good picture, and you have to ask yourself what caused them to cut that out.
Right.
what was either behind that went into behind that sheetrock, what went through that wall, what ended up where, when, why, and how. What happened.
Right.
It'd be nice to know if they cut any other pieces of the house walls
Oh, I mean,
out.
I've heard, I mean, from what I've been told, there was hardly anything of the inside of the house left. I mean, they cut out floorboards, they cut out steps. I mean, from the way I understand it, it was pretty much unsafe to even walk through.
Right. That's what I heard too, that there was so much stuff taken out, those pieces of the flooring taken out, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, blood spatter, cast off. I thought that too. And, I thought possibly that,
Well, I did too till people started talking about the mirror, and then I'm like, well, how does it get behind the mirror?
oh, thank you for that, Salty. There it is, right here.
Oh, good.
Good. I have this damn picture. It just takes me
Well, I did
forever to
too, but
get through.
I got 6,000 pictures.
I mean, that's what happens when you go incognito or whatever the damn word is,
Okay,
spontaneous.
you see the little square one or the little rectangle one above it?
Right here, yeah. And right
Yeah, but
here.
that's the one that's right there at the desk. But see the little one? I think that's a.
Yeah. So when I first saw this picture, I remember it circulating around and I was fixated on that one little piece right there. For whatever damn reason, I would look at this picture and that's what I was looking at. I never saw this cut out.
Yeah,
Never, never. Until one day I was looking at this picture and I was like, holy crap, that whole wall is missing like a big old cutout. And I thought,
yeah,
oh,
because
that's,
look how big it is. It's huge. It goes way back there.
yeah. Then I thought, oh, Gage, that's what everybody's been talking about. You fool.
Yeah,
See,
and
it
that's
looks
what
like
I
it
wonder.
goes all the way to the door. See,
But
it
you know
looks like it
what?
goes
As low
from
down
the
as it
floor all
is,
the way.
that as low down as it is, that wouldn't cover the mirror.
No, this,
I mean, so
I thought this was the doorway. I'm just sharing thoughts of my early thoughts here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
You thought
thought
it
this
was a
was
door.
the Yeah, I thought this was the doorway, and this would have been like a fingerprint or a bloody palm print that they had right here. But then I
Right.
figured out, oh, this is from the balcony on in, so there's no way. But if you look at this cutout, I mean, if you look at the floor, which is right here, any carpenters in the house, how many feet would you say this
Okay,
was
but that's a
from the ground on up? Would this be like
and I would say
4 feet?
I would say that window's maybe 3 feet from the deck.
But look, from the ground on up. Would you say it was about 3 feet up
Well,
all the
wait a
way
minute.
across?
Yeah, because it goes back a little piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paper on the outside's from the scanner. I figured that out because there's one that's hanging on a pole underneath the deck. There's one of those.
Yeah, and there's also one on the front door, right?
Yeah,
There's one in
yeah,
the
I figured
front
out that
door.
that was from the scanner.
But can
But
anybody
I
gauge
got a picture.
how tall this is? Would it be about 3 feet, you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think maybe 2.5 feet down to the deck, with it being a
Well,
window. I
I think
think from the deck,
the desk probably came, if this is the floor, the desk probably came about right here. Because it was a low desk. And then it had that
yeah, because
mirror. I always
okay,
thought that if Kaylee was fighting the attacker, maybe the attacker got pushed into the wall and left some residue off of um some blood residue off of his dicky suit or whatever the hell he was wearing. Because if blood was on there, it could have been transferred to the sheetrock.
All right, hang on just for a second. I'm getting you some pictures that will help you out a little bit.
How tall did y'all say that was, Salty? Hey, Layla, thank you for being here. Hey, Truth, thank you for being here. JB, Alexi, Sirius, Mountain Mama, thank y'all for being here. We're just trying to figure a lot of this stuff out. That wall was covered with Kaylee's blood. I was wondering if it was possibly covered with both of either Maddie's or Kaylee's. Like if she was attacked and either, I mean, this is far fetched. This is like movie stuff right here. But she could have jumped on him, grabbed his arm, been twirled around, went through the sheetrock, any of that stuff. He could have wiped the blood that he got off of Maddie onto the wall, which could have had some fibers or DNA or anything of the killer on that wall. I mean, it just movie stuff, but you just never know. Well, I know she never left the bed, but if he was leaning over her, stabbing her, I mean, some of her blood obviously got on the sheath. It would have got on his whatever outfit he was wearing, I would believe, you know? Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting concept to think about because what? I just don't know why they would have cut that out for any other reason other than having blood there or maybe fibers were collected. How you never
They
know
were hunting
dog hairs could have been left on a damn thing and it had blood on it. You just never
They were
know.
hunting the drugs in the wall.
Huh?
They were hunting the drugs in the wall.
Come on. Come on.
Well, wasn't it said that they hit them in the wall or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They hit
so
him.
they had to
No,
find the drugs.
they hit him in the vents.
Yeah,
See,
see?
that's what I heard very early on. There was a vent in that room and they were opening that vent and it led
Okay,
to the
here's a picture of Maddie's room, I think. Yes. This is a picture of Maddie's room. Ooh, that's not the way I imagined it. Alrighty then. Well, we'll go with that. There's one I'll send you. Hang
this
on.
is this is
I don't know
Maddie's
why I'm
room.
telling you. I'm not gonna hang up on me.
Okay.
Man, you open that door and you're right at it. I mean, I found one of the room. I'm trying to find one of the outside of the deck.
Hold on.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and send this one. It's not cropped and all pretty and everything, but you can at least get the gist of it.
Alrighty.
And I know I know it's Maddie's because you can see the deck outside.
Well, don't you
All right,
think it's weird? Don't you think it's weird that the police were asking why there wasn't stairs?
they wanted the drugs. I
That
mean,
just
come on,
sounds silly.
if
That just
if
sounds
it's
silly to even
fun,
say.
smoke a load of water.
That sounds that sounds silly to even say. You know what I mean?
I mean, some of the stuff that these people come up with, I don't even know how they come up with it.
Well,
I
let's look at this
mean,
while I'm waiting for yours to get here. For some
is
reason,
it not there?
Salty's comes in faster than yours, and Leslie sent me 2 emails that beat yours in there. So I don't know.
See, this desk is right up against her window.
But look, see that desk is like right below the window.
Right.
That cut that cut starts about right here, all the
Can
way
you put
across.
the pictures side by side?
No, hold on. Let me go back to that other
Like,
picture.
you want me to do it and then send it to you?
Use your imagination.
You don't want me to use my imagination.
Okay, so you saw her. There's
Yeah,
the
see that desk.
there's
Okay,
the
so
window.
that's
There's the window. The window
yeah,
ledge is right there. I was mistaken. That's not the floor. That's the window ledge.
that's what I said.
See right here?
You just like everybody else. You don't listen.
I
Yeah,
saw that
that's the window.
mistake.
Kaylee is the one that had the sliding glass doors.
Yeah. So if that was the window ledge,
Okay,
her desk was even with the window ledge. Right across
right.
right there. And then that would have came up with the mirror probably ending about right here.
All right, here's your good one of the outside deck, and you can see how
I
far.
have one. I have one where there's the dog bed and everything, but to find it on the fly got me messed up on that
Oh,
one.
I didn't go through my pictures for it, honey. I looked it up on Google. It'd take me forever to find it on my pictures. That's the reason these are screenshots that I'm sending you that hadn't been cropped or anything.
I mean, it's a pain in the arse.
And see, that's like Salty. She's got hers all organized and in files and
See, here's the vent where they were storing the drugs.
okay,
They
so
were,
that is a cutout in that wall because there's not a little bitty rectangle.
see, right here is where the desk ends. Right here, and it
Wow.
goes right here. And here's the cutout right there, and the cut off or the cut starts about right here, goes all the way across.
Yep.
And her bed would have been over here against this wall.
Right. And I bet you there wasn't a lot of walking room in between there either.
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
a little bitty room.
I mean, it is a little bitty. Hey, Salty, you haven't been up here in a while. You want to come up here with us? There's the link. You mind Salty being up here?
Why heck no? More the merrier.
Hey, chat. Hey, chat. I'm going to ask you, do y'all remember the theory of this vent being the vent where they used to hide their drugs that went down into the tunnel area where the distribution would be? This vent went to that. What the hell is that? Let me. That went into the pantry that had a hole behind the pantry that went down into the tunnels. Y'all remember that?
The hole beside the pantry that went down to the tunnels. That sounds like a conspiracy theory right there.
Hey, Salty, how are you doing? You're muted. Salty, can you hear us? Yeah, it was behind the fridge. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay, let me email you. I'm doxing everybody left and right. Sorry about that, Dina.
Why are you doxing me? Kelly Stanfield. There ain't nothing nobody can find on me that I haven't shared. Be careful what you find on me. You might be embarrassed.
Hold on a second. I gotta turn this AC off because it's freezing me. Keep them rolling, Nina.
Keep it going. Keep it going, y'all. Okay, I got the picture. Yay. I'm fixing it up for you.
All right, I'm back.
Yay.
Lord.
All right.
All right, there
So
she is.
fix this up for you.
Salty, can you hear us now?
All right, there
So
she is.
Yeah, I think
fix this
I
up
can
for
hear
you.
you now. Can you hear me now?
Salty, can you hear us now?
Oh,
Yes.
Lord.
Can you
All
hear?
right, there she is.
Yeah, I think
Fix this
I
up
can
for
hear
you.
you now. Can you hear me now?
Salty, can you hear us now?
Yes.
All right, there she is.
Yeah,
Hold
I
on.
think I can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Salty, can you hear us now?
Yes.
All right, there she is.
Yeah, I think I can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Salty, can you hear us now?
Yes.
All right, there she is.
Yeah, I think I can hear you now. Can you hear me now? It's repeating itself.
Well, she was here for a second. I think she needs to go in through. I don't know. Sometimes it's confusing. Like people use different variations.
Yeah.
There she is. Okay, can you hear us now?
Okay, I can. Is it better now?
Oh yeah, much.
I don't know what the heck was going on. Yeah, I was laying around chilling. I actually took a nap and I woke up and saw you guys were on and I came in and just heard a little bit of the conversation. I didn't know what y'all were talking about. That's why I was asking questions. I'm like, what do y'all even? I had no clue what you were talking about.
That's
But now I get it. We're talking about a certain creator's theory or sounds they've heard. And I'm not interested.
Other creators are running with it.
Oh, hey, that's welcome to Idaho. You know what I'm saying? I can't. They don't take up a lot of my headspace anymore. Maybe a year ago, but not anymore because they're
Yeah.
going to run with this. They're going to run with it. They're going to do what they do. There are certain people out there who live to call them out, and that's yay for them. But I've got
I
no desire. Here's the thing. I tell everybody to be careful on the YouTube streets. I'm not going to get out here on my channel anyway and start naming creators and pointing out this and that and starting a creator war, because to me it's not about that. It's about the story, the case, the victims, things like that. So I'm trying to
Right.
stay away from that bullshit with other creators. But when I know who you're referring to as to where that information came from, I'm so not interested.
Right.
I don't know what
Well, I
else.
was just
That's
wondering
just me
where
personally.
I was just wondering where it came from because I heard it and I was like, I've never heard that in my life. I thought it
Oh,
was
they're
just
gonna make
God.
up because Nina's right. Part of it came out of reading the CV of the new expert and what his credentials were, which it did talk about, gunshot stuff, but it doesn't pertain to this case. So of course
Okay.
you got certain people who are going to hear that, and now they're all of a sudden going to pull out that Linda Lane footage that we've had for 2 years. Now we're going to go back. And now we're going to hear new things come in Linda Lane that we didn't hear a year ago. All all that stuff we saw before is now null and void. Now we hear gunshots or gun racking or whatever. I've listened to Linda Lane. I have viewed Linda Lane to the cows come home. The only thing on Linda Lane is a white or a light colored sedan circling its prey.
Well, let me ask you, why all of a sudden, um, why all of a sudden is the grub truck being brought back up?
They can't let that stuff go, dude.
because they're running.
Yeah, they're going to find somebody at the grub truck that's going to tie into this and that. They can't let the private driver go right now. There's a lot of things being said again. And with Idaho 4, it happens every time there's a new hearing, a batch of new filings. It can go quiet for quite a while, and you had no hearings scheduled, and it just goes silent for a bit. They kind of run out of theories and, regurgitating the same thing every day, day after day after day. Then when something does happen, it kind of ignites that fire again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just got to where I just had to put a lot of that stuff on the shelf because I know I consider the source where it's coming from. So
Well, I
that's
can
all.
tell you, it's like I said, when I came up here, when I came on panel, I'll tell anybody, that when I read that CV, I was like, what? What the heck, And then I
Yeah.
remembered what Christy said, about the party. And then I was like, well, heck, but it wasn't anything I was going to make a video about. You know what I'm
Do you mean,
saying?
are you
It was
referring to
supposed
when
to be
Christy,
part of my
let me ask,
homework.
let me, are you, when you say Christy, are you referring to when Christy said they got the call from their niece that something had
Yes.
happened to Kaylee? And, okay, but in the heat of the moment, when everything's happening, nobody knew how those kids died in there. Dave came out and
Right.
said, no one knew. And they even wondered, was there a shooting? That's automatic thought into a parent's head. What do you mean my kids did? What it didn't, that never to me came off as indicating there was actually a shooting that's now been secretive. You know what I mean? I never,
Right.
even when I first heard that, that never struck me as they were trying to tell her Kaylee was shot. They were trying to figure out in their own minds out loud in real time what the hell
Yeah, I
just
mean, because
happened.
they were all thinking overdose too.
Right. Exactly. So I think
But I
people
hadn't
take
thought of
small things like that and absolutely run wild with it. And I don't understand.
it. I
Hold
guess
on a
that's the
second.
point I
Hold
was.
on a second. I got
Yeah.
a question. I got a question. Based on this picture that you just sent me, Nina, I never realized how small this area was. I've always assumed that this was a long balcony, but it's really not. Because
Well,
this
it
is
wraps
Maddie's room.
around to Kaylee's room.
Yeah, this
But
is
on
Maddie's.
the Maddie
This is
side,
the
it's not.
bathroom. This is the bathroom
Yeah,
window.
I know the
And this is
layout.
and this is Kaylee's room. So it I always thought this balcony was longer than it is because when you look
Uh-uh.
at it from the other direction, it looks really long. There's
Well,
a dog there.
it runs
There's a,
down the length the back of the house, but doesn't go down the side of the house once it ends past Maddie's window. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? I mean, it's not like terribly small, but it's not huge
yeah.
either, you know. Um, and when you go behind the home, that other photos that I sent you where there's Maddie actually in the bedroom, one of her sitting at the dresser, one of her standing in the bedroom. Whoa, something's happening. I don't know what that was. But you can see her pink M, it's in the window, her boots are in the window. You can see it's Maddie's room. And if you were outside that home, behind that home, looking in, you can tell that's Maddie Mogan's bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. You
Yeah,
know,
there was no secret.
it it's really terrible that, as I looked at that just now, there is a dog bed on both ends of that balcony that I noticed. When you see pictures from the other end, right outside of Kaylee's room, there's a
Yeah,
dog bed there, and then there's a dog bed at the other end. So,
yeah, one of them
so
looks old. I don't know if maybe Kaylee just tossed them out there and went and got new ones. I don't know. You know what to make of the dog beds. They're college students. There was also a big couch right in the backyard and a bunch of party activity all over the house, so the dog bed things, just see the pink boots in the window, and Maddie's chair is sitting right there at that desk. Just like Nina said, this is not a big room. So you
that's
have to
why
put
that's why I was
it's
saying about the cast off. Her
well,
bed, she would have been laying right here
yes,
in
but the wall
theory.
is at the foot of the bed. So that my theory is If she's laying in that, Maddie had a pretty good buzz that night. We see it at the grub truck. It's no big deal. The girl, she was of age. She wasn't alone, and she's having herself a good time. By the time she got home, did Maddie eat her carbonaro and just pass out right there on that bed? Was she harmed right there on that bed? Never had a fighting chance. Kaylee was different. Kaylee had wounds. Kaylee had more vicious wounds. I know everybody's theory, according because the PCA states Kaylee was in that bed asleep. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. I have no clue. I also think she could have been in her own bedroom, walked in that door. And if you open that door, you're literally standing right there confronting the man in the room.
See, one thing that's never spoken on is these lights right here. I believe that these lights were probably on that night. So,
Maybe.
I mean, in any other pictures or
I
TikTok
think
that you've seen, these lights are always on. They're never off.
Well, they may
So,
be when the main lights are off, it's going to be like a low light, right? A very
of
low,
course,
twinkly light.
but
Yeah,
it's still going to give you an illumination of
exactly.
being able to see what's in the room.
Right. You
So
can look at a
people have
figure.
speculated that, you know, he went into such a dark room. How was he wearing night goggles? Was he doing this, that, and the other? I mean, there's plenty of light in that house. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't as dark as people have made it sound. You know, it's like, oh my
No, it
God, he was going
wasn't.
through a completely dark house.
Well, because they had the neon light in the kitchen or the living room as well. Kaylee had one in her bedroom. Maddie's little lights there. But that large cutout, I think one of two things. Somebody was killed right there at the foot of that bed viciously and blood spatter went all over that wall. Or did somebody leave a calling card signature marked on that wall? They're
What do you
not above doing that. Let's say that killers.
What do you think, Nina? Give us your thought on what we're talking about.
Oh, I think from looking the three pictures I just sent you together, if you look at
Yeah,
them, I would say cast off.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
waiting
my
for them.
guess. And I think that small little rectangle there on the wall behind where the mirror would have been, because it's such a perfect. Because if you look at the large cutout, it's not a perfect square cutout, right? But if you look at that little piece where the mirror would have been, um, it's like a perfect measurement. So I don't know if that's one of their platelets where they were doing the Pharaoh scans, one of their markers, or if it's an actual cutout, because it's like a perfect little tiny cutout if it is. And it makes no
Yeah,
sense compared to the large wall.
I mean, to have that whole piece of sheetrock cut out, you know, it would have had. There could have been multiple things on that
It had to
sheetrock.
be
There could have been
well,
stains. There
like
could
Nina said, they cut out floorboards and stuff of that nature too. So we all know that Xana was on the floor and on the floor for a long time. So they probably cut out the floor around where Xana was at as well. It appears Ethan was on a bed. And it appears the
I
other
mean,
two
if there
victims
was,
were on its
if,
bed.
and I'm not trying to sound morbid here, but if Kaylee bled out and it went into the mattress, what to say the blood didn't go down that direction and go into the wall as well? You know what I mean?
Oh, it could have. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
Like it did on the second floor.
Yeah,
I mean, because that house didn't look very level. You know what I mean? So if
right.
there was blood that was coming off the mattress area, you know, there
Well,
could have
it
been.
probably, yeah, the mattress probably soaked a lot. We know that even in Xana's room, if it's true that Ethan was on the bed, it soaked through, plus it dripped through the walls. We saw that on the outside. But
Right.
in my mind, when they say cutouts from the floor, in my mind, I'm thinking probably where Xana was at. There's going to be a large cutout where she was at. And there's going to be that large cutout in Maddie's wall. Who knows what else they've cut out of that home? As far as Xana's room goes, we didn't get a good look in there. There's nothing you can really tell from when they tore the house down. Even if you try to look inside and see things, there's not much to see. so it's
Mhm.
hard to tell. But that cut out in Maddie's room was something we all noticed. As soon as I saw the picture, I was like, "What in the world? What is going on there?" Which
Right. I
tells
mean,
me,
and
which
like I
also
said,
tells me Maddie's door had to have been shut.
possibly,
Oh,
possibly.
well, because that door opens against that wall. And the door, if they take the door down too, we can't see from that angle. But up here,
I mean,
but if you,
everything's so confusing because we've been told the doors were open, blah blah blah. But
well,
that
they may
dog
have
was
been open when the cops got there, but they may not have been open the entire time. Somebody opened them at one point. I just don't know who it is yet. But I'm saying for that large cutout to be as large as it was, the door would have been, if the door had been open, it would have received a lot of that blood spatter versus the
and
wall
how
behind
do
it.
we not know? How do we not know that Hunter didn't go upstairs first and then to Xana's room?
Or he may have went to Xana's, told them to get out, and he went upstairs and saw that and got out too. We don't know when he made his way upstairs. We
Right.
don't
I
know when the
mean,
doors got opened. I think the
right.
doors were all shut at one point, and they were opened by the time the cops got there. They were opened. I don't really know who opened the doors. I don't really know if that really matters.
No, probably doesn't. Because I mean, I had always in my mind I had this twisted around. I always thought that Kaylee's room, like when you look in from the backside, I always thought Kaylee's room was the first one or was the far one next to the bathroom, not the other way around. I thought Maddie's room was the first one to the left up the stairs and it's the other way around.
It's the other way around. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people will, will stand on Kaylee was in the bed, but the way she was found, even kind of slumped over, sitting up, I feel like she was thrown, tossed up onto that bed, and I feel like she came in that room. I think the dog alerted her to a noise, and she got up and shut her door and walked toward Maddie's room. And when she opened Maddie's door, there was no going back from that. He was there. And he grabbed her and took care of her and then tossed her up on that bed with her friend.
I'm waiting, Nina. I know that you sent it. I'm waiting for it.
You're
And
kidding,
I
my
haven't
goodness.
gotten it. Let me ask
You
you a
have
question, Nina. That video that we watched last night, I don't know, Salty, if you've had a chance to watch it or even know about it, but
well, it depends who is.
about the survivor that was in the Buffalo, New York attacks back in 1992, whenever she heard her roommate get attacked across the hall.
Oh yeah,
And
I'd
she
already heard about that one. There was a couple of them I've actually heard where it's happened in real life to other people. Where there was an attack that happened. That was that lady, right? There was the attack that happened, and she heard things and things of that nature, but she didn't realize what was happening until the next day.
right, and she thought that her roommate had choked on her own vomit. When she checked on her the following morning, her roommate was on the floor
Yeah.
and she thought she was unresponsive. So she didn't even notice the blood everywhere, which was what I thought was interesting because many people had made such a big deal of how come Hunter didn't say anything about the blood? How come they didn't say anything about there's blood everywhere? Oh my God, there's blood everywhere. Well, this lady made it clear that she didn't even see the blood until the EMS came in, and then she was brought into the room. In reality, she disassociated in so many words,
I
and she
think
was brought
Hunter
in.
saw it. He just didn't know how to handle it and wasn't prepared to tell everybody what he had just seen. Let the cops get here. I'll talk. That's my take on it. I feel like he had to have seen it, especially once he hollers, "Get out, get out, get out." That's not a get out. She's just passed out. That's a get out, get out, get out. Something's terribly fucking wrong. Excuse my language. Something's terribly wrong. You know,
But also, what I'm saying is the disassociation caused her to not see the blood, and then when the EMS and she felt safe, she came back into her mind. She saw the blood
well,
every.
I get it. And with Dylan, I just tread lightly because I have mixed feelings because something prompted her to call her friends over, not just I can't reach my other friends by phone or text. They're not answering. I feel like there was always something more to that. In this latest round of hearings, we're hearing that Dylan actually saw Xana on the floor. I don't know when she saw Xana on the floor. Did that prompt her to freak out and call her friends? Was it that morning? Did she finally go up the stairs at 10:30 in the morning and see Xana, and that's when she called Hunter? You know, all I can say is people talk to your young adults. I talked to mine. I sat him down and we had a long talk about what you do and don't do, especially if you hear things that don't sound right in the night. I wanted to
But let
prepare.
me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. And to be fair, you know, does it really matter if she saw her at any point
Yeah.
that she did it?
Let
How
me.
how does that matter
What
in the
matters to
context?
me is what the only takeaway from this to me is that if we're sending young adults out to the world, prepare them. And I'm not saying she did anything wrong. I will never tell you these roommates are involved.
Well, that's
There
what I
were
would
there
ask
were a
you.
lot, and I understand that, but the conversation gets sideways real quick when you try to have a honest discussion about what was and wasn't done that night. She should have done more. And I'm not throwing shade at her, but you gotta admit at some point if you were that afraid and you couldn't reach all your friends and the next morning you're still freaking out and you're calling your daddy and you're all these things are happening and you end up calling friends over.
But
You
when
should
you
have
put
called them a
that
long time ago, you know.
but when you
So
put that word right there, she should have. That puts
right.
that that puts unrealistic expectations
No,
on
that's not what
somebody.
okay, what I mean by that, I'm not putting an unrealistic expectation on a 19-year-old girl living on her own and should
Okay.
know. What I'm saying is, even if I didn't call 911 at that age, because I promised myself at 17 I would never forget what it was like to be 17. And I've really tried hard not to forget that because I have kids, right? But
Okay.
at 19, I partied my ass off. Even if I felt like something was horribly wrong and didn't want to call the cops, I'm calling my daddy, but not the next morning. I'm calling right then. I'm saying use that as a teaching tool to have a conversation with your kids.
Okay, I get that. I
Do you
get
know, you
that.
see what I'm saying? She made a
Yeah,
lot of missteps
I
that
thought you
night
were
that
looking
she
at
should have
it.
known better. No, I'm not accusing these girls of anything but being drunk and naive,
Right.
right? But I think it's a good opportunity to take to talk to your kids to say, hey, these things can happen in life, and I need to prepare you for what to do in this type of situation if you're ever confronted with it.
Right, right.
That's what I mean by that. Because
Okay,
if
that
because
clarifies it. I mean, I would taking it as you were saying she should have done more, like she didn't do enough in your eyes. You know what I mean?
right, if she saw a body on the floor that night, 4
But
a.m., even
like that
5
lady
a.m.,
said,
even, and still
like
couldn't reach people by phone and was it so hot and heavy trying to reach them, concerned, every that she should have done something more if it's true she saw a body laying there. If she
but let
was,
me
you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's when I would have said to my daughter, honey, what's going on here? We got to figure this out and why you didn't realize or what, not that I would go at my child. I would try to
right.
help them work through it because they're probably going to have a lot of survivor's guilt or a lot of guilt, period.
Hmm.
But you still can't, I don't know. I'm not blaming them, but I'm not going to ignore that their inaction to fail either or to act either.
Okay. I get that. I get that. Where'd Nina go?
Oh,
She
I
dropped
don't
off.
know.
Nina, did you drop off? I was just about to ask you a question. But I get what you're saying. I mean, but a lot of people have, taken this out of context and gone with
Of
the
course they
narrative.
have.
They've gone with the narrative that they should be as responsible as a 30-year-old person, 40-year-old person, 50-year-old person.
And there's people calling for their arrest. I've seen it all. That's why I'm
Yeah,
trying to tell you, I'm not going after the roommates. I know all the things that have been said about them, all the horrible things, all the accusations that have been landed against them. I know all of it. I know stuff right now about them I wished I did not know. But
I know
you
so
know,
much about this community
right?
that I wish that I didn't know. I mean, I know so much about this community, and every time a new person gets brought into the mix, a new name, it's like, how are these people finding out these people's names? Like, they're just going through social media sites. Okay, I'm going through these comments. Here's a person that's commented on this person, on this person. Okay,
That's how they do it.
there's 6 degrees of separation. So let me dox them and everything that's on their social media. Let's put them into the mix. Okay,
Yeah.
that kind of, it's like, when are you going to run out of suspects? When are
Well,
you going to run out of suspects?
unfortunately, they're going to keep doing it. I think, you know what I mean? I just had decided a long time ago I can't. I'm not the YouTube police, and I'm not going to be out here debunking all their bullshit constantly because I just got better things to do. All I can do is come out and present facts as we know them and have discussions based about what we see in documents and what we, things like that. And the shadiness of the roommates came out in documents. That's not something we all made up, this 8-hour gap and all that. But people didn't want to talk about it honestly because they wanted it to be nefarious.
Well, let me ask you a question, Salty. You mentioned talking to your young ones, about the situations and being
Mhm.
knowledgeable. How did they respond to that?
And I'll tell you the truth, at the time, my son was 16 when this happened. He's 18 now.
Okay.
We sat down and I said, here's a story I want to tell you. I told him about the 4 kids in the house murdered. And we realized there's 2 surviving roommates, but the cops aren't called for 8 hours. He looked up at me. He said, 8 hours, Mom? Did she do it? And I said, no, she didn't do it, son. He said, then what the hell, Mom? And I had to explain the story to him as best I knew it at the time. And we've had talks about it since then. He'll ask me something every now and then. Hey, they ever get that guy that you was looking at over there, or whatever. But we've had conversations about it several times, actually. But it was strange to me that the first thing my 16-year-old said to me was when I said there was 8 hours before she called 911. He said, did she do it? And I thought,
Now,
man, has
here,
my
I
kid
have a
been watching too
question for
much crime with
people.
his mama?
I have a question for people in general. What made it just Dylan's responsibility? There was 2 surviving roommates. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't just
because the
Dylan's responsibility to call
Because the piece,
911.
I'll tell you why. Because the PCA was silent on Bethany. Bethany was apparently downstairs, didn't hear or see a thing. Only
But
Dylan
but we
did.
know
So
different. We
then
know
people,
different. We
I
know
know,
different now.
but people also did not cut Bethany any slack. Where you been? Her and Dylan uh, planned this. They ran out of the house. They weren't even there that night. They left. They went to a hotel. They did all these weird ass things, and yeah, they had Bethany thrown right in there with it the whole time. That's why Bethany got the hell out of Dodge and didn't want to come back, and I don't blame her.
Hey Nina, welcome back. You get a phone call?
Yeah, you would think that if you don't answer your phone, they wouldn't just keep calling.
Well, people do that to me. They know I'm live and they're still calling and texting. So they're watching and they're calling and texting. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, so it's like, okay, I get it. What do you think, Nina? I mean, you've heard Salty's take on it. What do you think about the whole? I know we've talked about it nonstop, but the 8 hour gap. Do you think there could have been? I mean, the Dylan should have done a little more if she indeed did see Xana in that state of mind, or where did your mind go? Because it's always good to see different takes on things.
Well, mine goes strictly with the extended interview that Stacy Chapin and her husband did November the 17th that has now been cut from the
Mm-mm.
internet.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, the interview hadn't, but the parts that I'm talking about's been cut out. Because I was new to this and I didn't realize that they scrubbed things from the internet, or I would have dang screen recorded that thing. Um, But I mean, from the way Stacy Chapin talks, she talks about Bethany hearing the voices and the fighting with Ethan and stuff like that, and how Bethany thought that it was just a fight. You know what I'm saying? Like fraternity brothers fighting or something, and I mean, of course, who is ever going to think somebody's getting murdered? I mean, I can understand thinking, okay, well, I guess they brought it over here to finish fighting or whatever. I don't even know if the fight's ever been confirmed, but
Are you talking
um,
about an interview in the interview where she allegedly says that stuff?
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I know she said it because I heard it.
She's talking about Bethany was allegedly at the frat party when all that went down.
Yeah.
But what Stacy's talking about is at the house how the girls heard the rummaging of the furniture, how they heard the fighting. She's stating that they did hear things, but that they didn't know what was going on and that they thought that Ethan was fighting with the frat guys.
So that's an interesting question right there. If somebody tells you they don't know what was going on, how come people can't believe that? How come it has to be okay? You would hold on a second. Hold on. I'll let both of you respond because I've heard that so much, so much. They didn't know
And
what They didn't know what
I
was
guess
going on. So what is wrong with that answer? What is wrong with you saying, "Well, I didn't know. I thought it was this. I thought it was that." Why isn't that good enough for people? That's what I want to know. How come like if you want to be taken at your word and I say, "Well, what did you hear?" "Well, I really didn't hear anything or I thought it was this." And I say, "Oh, come on now. You know better than that. You know it was probably this." "No, no, I don't really think it was. I think it was." What is wrong with taking people at their word? When did we become a society where we don't even believe what people say the first time around, second time around? How come it's never good enough?
I don't know. I don't know why people still listen to people who spread bullshit, but they do.
But
I
you
d-
get what I'm saying? How come her not remembering certain things or what she saw is not good enough? How come it has to be more into it
well, because
than
there are
what she
certain
said?
there's just certain personalities out there who are going to gravitate toward that stuff no matter what, and that's
But
like
there's a lot of people. There's a
I
lot of
understand
people.
that. I
There's a lot of
know
people.
society's a crazy place to live in,
I get that. But
and
if I was gonna ask you guys to, tell me something that was very important to you, so, something that you've never told anybody, and then you tell me, and then I start questioning you to death. Are you gonna want to open up to just the next person that asks you about that certain situation because this one person treated you like you were a liar and a manipulator and you had more involvement than you did at 19 years old?
well, and the thing about what Stacy said, look, because there was an alleged fight at
Hold
the
on,
frat
hold
house.
on, hold on. We're
So
not talking about Stacy right now. We're talking about
what?
what I just asked. At 19, if somebody, you told somebody, this is what I remember, this is what I saw, you were talking to your roommate about it, and what you know is your truth. How come it's so damn hard for people to believe that? How come it's so hard? And I'm not talking about either one of you, but how come it always has to go to something else? How come it always has to be more to it than what the person is saying? Because you're essentially calling them a liar in so many words. You might say, "Oh, I believe this, but this." Okay, well, if you were in that position at 19, I was in that position at 19, and we were caught in that position. would we wanted people to act like they didn't believe us, or would we have wanted to be believed by somebody of the ferociousness of that night? Whether we knew what was going on, whether we didn't know what was going on, whether we saw stuff, whether we didn't, wouldn't we want to be believed without being interrogated as if we were involved?
Well, of course, and I think a majority of the people do that, but with that handful out there in the trailer parks of the YouTube streets that do the opposite of that, I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, I can't tell you why they're all doing it for different reasons. They all have their own ulterior motives. Some do it for money, some do it for shits and giggles, some do it because they just don't damn well know better. I couldn't tell you why they're all out there doing it, but I don't choose to consume it because they're energy vampires, you know.
Okay. How about you,
Um,
Nina?
so
How about you, Nina? What do you think about what I said?
Well, I think it's because people. It's like I've always said about the salaciousness. People want that. They don't want. Oh, she didn't know what was going on, so she didn't call. You know what I'm saying? They want some drama to it. They want. If I say, "Man, salty today," I stumped my big toe. But if I say I stumped my big toe, and guess what I was doing when I stumped my big toe? You see what I'm saying? I mean, they want that. They want more. They want, and if you can't give it to them, they're going to invent it.
it's the drama queens.
And the thing about it is, there's some channels, not y'all, but some channels are married to the Idaho 4. Okay, so when the Idaho 4 goes away, what happens to their channel? You see what I'm saying? And so, like,
Exactly.
like right now, with all the documents coming down and all the facts, okay, we're getting facts now. And they know that it's getting pretty soon that their narrative is going to run out. So let's bring up a gun. Now we've got another narrative to run with. You see what I'm saying?
And that's what they've always done with this case. And one day it will be over. And it'll be their fault if their channel can't survive past Idaho 4. Hopefully,
Well,
maybe some of them
also,
won't.
I've talked to my loved ones. They're younger than these individuals that passed away, and they were very young when this happened. And I've talked to them about the case, and they know about the case, and they also watch me. And I've talked to them, and I've taught them different things, and I've gone over scenarios. But at no point did their mind go to a nefarious event that happened other than what happened. 4 people got murdered.
My
I
kid watches
get
too much true crime with his mom. Can I say?
no, I'm not talking about yours. I'm just saying, like, in their case, because everybody has a different outlook. You have a different outlook on exactly whether you're gonna see it for just what it is. Like, they have that mindset. Well, 4 people got murdered. They got murdered. How did they catch the guy? How did he do it? Blah blah blah. It was, until later on they started asking more questions, and the violence in society today is so desensitized. And I believe that that's part of the reason why Dylan, Bethany, all the people involved, they grew up with guns and rap music and killings and money and drinking and drugs and all this stuff, just like we did probably, but it wasn't to the extreme. It's to the extreme now. Everything is a violent act. There's killings. You have to have a certain haircut. You carry a gun. You vape. You're a gangster. You're a thug. And this mentality, I was watching some of the police body cam videos. Those kids, Hunter and that other kid, which I believe was the other kid that said hello on the 911 call. I could be wrong, but those two that answered the door, They were programmed to say, well, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who lives here. I think it's 4 girls. They were very evasive, and that should tell you all you need to know about that party house. Nobody was going to fess up. The only one that really fessed up was Xana and Kaylee because they were the older ones. They knew what was at stake. Madison, she fessed up over the phone. The younger ones, not so much because they were underage. They were doing stuff they weren't supposed to do. So let's say Dylan was totally intoxicated, plus she was doing some illegal shit. Was it illegal enough to mean that she murdered her roommates? No. But could she be doing some shrooms or, other drugs, whatever? That's none of our business. You get what I'm saying? Bethany. We don't know about Bethany because we only know so much as what we've been told about them texting during, and I like how they say they were texting during the murders. No, they were texting during disturbances in the night. If we're really going to speak on it correctly, that's how we're going to speak on it. Because they didn't have any realization, in my opinion, that murders were going on. That's not how the PCA was written, and the paperwork that's come out since then has not disputed that one bit. What do y'all think?
I think I've always felt the same way. I've never, my channel, me and my thoughts, I've never accused these roommates of doing anything. Not one time. Except being drunk and naive. Naive as hell. I will say that. Other than that, they haven't done anything. But I will say this, going back to that, what Bethany allegedly said that Stacy said. If that frat house fight allegedly occurred, what she was referring to was, and we haven't heard a word from Bethany in the PCA or anywhere except off the streets, right? That she allegedly said this or that, or saw this or that. When she's speaking about, she heard a disturbance and she thought it could have been Ethan with the frat boys. Because what if they did get into a fight at the frat house, and what if they did come over to the house to kind of, take up the fight again? So that's what that meant. Not like, because trust me, I have a whole alternate scenario laid out to me in my Twitter DM probably nearly 2 years ago, with a whole scenario you wouldn't believe that is an alternate theory as to how these murders occurred. So I know all about what them frat boys are allegedly up to over there. I don't buy any of it. I've looked into all of it. You come up empty-handed no matter which hole you go down in Idaho. So a year ago, I chose to step away from all of that because I was willing in the beginning to be open-minded and listen to everybody's theory and hear it all out. And boy, did I hear it all. And I know how to look things up myself and look into a lot of things, and they came up empty-handed.
So, Nina, what were you going to continue to say?
As far as the interview, the only reason that I am so adamant about what was said in it is because I didn't follow this case. My daughter told me about the case. And so when I started in this true crime, of course I'm trying to play catch up. So I'm watching like every interview there is. And so I watched that interview and I immediately go across the hall to my daughter. And I'm like, Tamla, did you know blah, 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 blah. She was like, what? And I'm like, yes, I just watched this interview. And she said, send me the interview. I mean, so that I know it happened because my daughter didn't even know it, and she had been following the case forever. And so I think I was on Swamp Rose's panel and I brought it up and somebody asked me, did I have receipts for it? And I hate it when you say, well, it's not on the internet anymore because it sounds like a cop out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's easy to say something and then say, well, they scrubbed it. And so I started searching, and all I can find is I have 5 different screenshots of people saying that they're hunting the same interview and what they heard. Then I ran up on Forensic Frenzy and one of her earlier videos from the very beginning, and she she is talking about the same interview. And so I finally put all of that together in a package and I put it on a post on my uh, channel, because if I say something on your channel, I'm responsible for those receipts. Just like if I went on Salty's channel, there's no way that I would say something on panel that I couldn't back up. And I shot my mouth off in swamps, so I felt responsible for putting that out there with the receipts.
But yeah, there's been talk about that interview for a long, long time, though. I mean, it's and that it was scrubbed and all this stuff, but I don't know. Like I said, I stopped going down any of those and all of those rabbit holes a long time ago because it's not good for my brain. I got too many other legit cases that also need coverage, other victims that need justice as well, other defendants that need to have their rights protected, along the way. And I never, ever will be that channel that can only stick to one subject at a time. Because I get too bored. Too many things happening. Too many things I want to discuss. And if I spend 2 or 3 days on Coburger because I'm going through documents, so be it. I'm going to see this case through to the end. But I can't. I don't see how channels will. That's up to them how they move themselves going forward. Like I said, I got enough going on in my real life. I got enough going on trying to maintain my channel. I don't troll the internet. I don't see all the other stuff being put out anymore on purpose because it's not going to do anything for me. You know what I mean? Except probably aggravate me. It's not going to it's not going to make me go, oh my God, damn, I finally fit. That's not about to happen. It's just not.
What do y'all think
Well,
about what I put up?
one thing that I would like to say is, I guess this is just me being an advocate or whatever, because just like Salty, we know the pain of losing a child. And I think Salty will agree that if my child was murdered and I put a statement out saying, y'all lay off those two girls, we don't blame them, they couldn't have helped, they couldn't have saved a life. To me, that has so much power to it coming from the parents that lost their child. If they do not blame those girls, if they know that those girls couldn't save a life, because it is in their statement that they could not have done anything, that a
Yeah, but
life
Nina,
couldn't.
you also got to remember those same people, honey. They can't stand them parents, right? They pick apart everything people say. So it doesn't matter what those parents come out and say. There's that group that's going to go anti on them and just rip them apart for every word that they do say, right? So
And I
they could.
understand that. But I get so tired of hearing, well, nobody knows if they'd made that phone call, maybe a life could be saved.
That's
Y'all,
not
they couldn't
true.
have saved them.
Yeah.
There's a surgeon that had a statement out there
Look,
that he could have had a emergency room set up there.
yeah, even
And
with me saying that if Dylan, should have called somebody sooner, that's not to say a life could have been saved. I know better. I'm a grown woman. But I understand how things
oh
happen.
yeah,
There was no saving those kids. Dylan didn't. Her failure to act didn't cause them to die. Right? There was no hope.
no, and I guess that's the narrative that I would really like. And the thing about it is, I think people use that as an excuse to attack. They know in their feeble minds that a life couldn't be saved, but it's a good reason for the attack.
Well, it keeps the eyes off of the
Right.
suspect. Right? We can't have our eyes on the
And
suspect.
I didn't know, Salty, you work a whole lot of cases. Is there any other defendant that is like godlike? I mean,
Richard
Um,
I
Allen.
mean,
no, no. Richard Allen people do it's no, that's different.
to me, the Richard Allen
It's so
advocates,
freaking different.
they're different. You know, I mean, some of the
Coburg,
Coburg
what
people
Coburger
are
is like a god figure, like
yes,
can do no wrong, pristine, handsome individual that we need to coddle and do all these things for.
right.
The people who
I mean,
defend Richard Allen right now are doing it for very, 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 very different reasons than why people are doing it for Coburger.
I
Okay.
mean, like
All
that
right.
little dog he's got up of Jeff. Vivian tagged me in one like Gage did of Coburger, and oh my gosh, they were just telling me how low my IQ and everything was because I laughed over a
Oh,
Coburger dog.
look, they're making these Barbies on Twitter for the Delphi case, and now they're making them like this for. I saw the Brian Koberger one too. It's like when adults want to scream, "What's wrong with America's youth?" I say, "Look in the mirror."
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm like, y'all, we have been serious and crying and screaming and everything else. All we were doing was just laughing at something.
Yeah.
We're not saying put them out there and make money off of it.
Look, I don't even create AI pictures of Koberger and his stupid mask. I don't even got time for all that mess.
I do.
I don't though. I mean, I'm gonna put his real picture
Well, I
on my
don't. I don't make
thumbnail.
those ones that I don't make the ones that I posted. I've got those off the Facebook groups. I mean, sometimes I gotta laugh. I just can't. I laugh at the dude because of so much. Just like people that name drop, that's annoying to me. And it's like the
Yeah.
defensive side. Every time they want to bring up a document or bring up some expert, they got a name drop. What's so and so? Or the new one is Bicca Barlow. Bicca Barlow said this, and Bicca Barlow said that.
Well, Becca's been on the case for a really long time. She just joined as the attorney but Becca Barlow put a declaration in over a year ago. She's been on the case. She's been there the
Well,
whole
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But
Well,
you know,
I that yesterday I did. I put a mask on and and the only reason I did it was I put one of those safety helmets on him and I put defense's Coburger and then I put the other mask on him and put prosecution's Coburger because they're totally opposite. I mean, one can't tie his shoe and one killed somebody.
yeah, exactly. One can't tie his freaking shoe. And
Right.
that bothers me. Can't walk
You
across
know,
the floor
they
now all
were
of a
talking about
sudden. That's
he
bullshit.
wrote he wrote his fives upside down and backwards. Do you know what a talent that would take? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But that was in elementary school. In
You know,
elementary school, my daughter
and,
couldn't say calculator. She said calculator.
and some of these channels and creators, they set out to I'm not the one that's going to go come out the gate and go full on prosecution, full on defender. It depends
Right.
as the case unfolds before me. And I'm going to base it on what I see coming in them court documents. There's a lot of things out here on the YouTube streets that are allegedly happening in this case that Ann has not brought up one single time in a filing. So again, I'm going to refer Mr. Ombre and all those great detectives with all that information they've gathered. Have you sent it to Ann Taylor yet? Because she needs it.
Yeah, and I made that point too. We have not heard about any of that stuff.
None of it.
All these people that they've drug under the cars and supposedly had this inside and that inside, and their investigators found this guy. None of it has been brought out in any of these documents. So how can you take any of this stuff seriously?
And I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing about it is they will fight to the death to make sure that Koberger is innocent until found guilty. But I've always said they
Well,
don't
it's not up
mind
to
throwing
them.
everybody under the sun. What about they're innocent until proven guilty? I mean, I tell Gage all the time, for all the people that's been accused, we need bleachers. Not a
Well,
defendant chair, you don't
yeah,
need defendant
exactly.
bleachers.
It's like every kid in that town was doxxed, especially everyone at the grub truck. Anybody they could tie to anybody at the grub truck was also doxxed. It was so ridiculous.
I
So
mean,
if they
they're
all
not
done
even
such
accusing
fantastic
judges.
investigative work, package all that up neatly and get it on over to Ann because she's going to need all of that work y'all done. And
Yeah,
so
because
far,
it's going to be a lot of work. because it is 3 states of law enforcement, FBI, judges, prosecutions,
Well, I mean,
down
the
to
YouTube streets, all
whatever.
the stuff they've collected, you know what I mean? All the evidence they claim to have that can prove the car wasn't here and wasn't there. Well, go and needs all of that, I'm sure. So go run, take it to her.
Well, don't
Get
you
her.
know
Take
some
all
of
the
them have
spaghetti, take all
some
the
of them
spaghetti.
have
Serious. Let's put a smile on that face.
some of them have sent documents and stuff to Aunt
Oh, I know.
Tabitha.
I can tell you a list of the ones who claim they have. I saw pictures of packages on Twitter. Mailing this to Ann right now. That was a year ago.
Now see, Salty,
I
I
mean,
have to say that I am not arrogant enough to think that I can solve the Idaho 4 case sitting on my couch in Alabama.
exactly. Right?
I am not a bit that arrogant, and I would not be arrogant enough to send something to a capital offense qualified attorney and say, "Look, I found this, and I'm in Alabama and never even seen the crime scene."
Oh
But
my God.
you this up for your defense, please. I mean, come on.
I mean, it's gotten to the point, you
And
know,
it started with that one statement by Bullhorn Betty where she said, if it wasn't for the online community, Gabby Petito would probably have never been found.
well, you know what we say about Bullhorn Betty. Oh, well, I know what I say about Bullhorn Betty.
Well, I don't even know that woman good enough to really say anything, but I know that I've seen her in her bullhorn.
I ain't got nothing nice to say, so I'm gonna be real quiet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been interesting. It really has. I appreciate your channel, Salty. It is good to see other people that are kind of going the same direction. You know, because there's not many of us out here. There really
It's
isn't.
pretty clear on my channel which direction I go with Delphi and Idaho, and they're very, very different directions.
Well,
Very
the reason
different.
I never dove into Delphi because I thought, man, this is a 15-year case at that point, and I thought I don't have the time to
Mm-mm. It was a
15
5
years of
year.
it.
It was a
Oh,
5 year
5 years.
case at that point, but
Okay, 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. I
it
don't know
was
why
just
it's
yeah.
15, but 5
There was
year
just
case.
a lot to that case. I mean, a lot of bad decisions, crime scene wise, investigation wise. The judge made it was just a whole big mess in that case. Too way too much to go into, but it's not anything like Idaho 4. It doesn't even compare, and I can't stand when people try to compare them because there's no comparison. You know, everybody tried to tell me in the beginning, well, it's all about Koberger's rights. Well, from what I saw, they were all protected and still are. He didn't get sent to a prison. He gets to wear suits to court, and he gets vegan meals, and he gets to stay in a county jail. Rick Allen was arrested 1 month before Brian Koberger and was sent straight to prison.
Right.
Never left prison and came to court dirty, shackled up, and all kinds of things happening. You know, just very
I
different
mean,
cases. So
to be honest, if you go to jail or you go to prison, should you expect that you're going to be treated humanely? I
to an
mean,
extent,
the
yes.
thought is there, but I mean, to be honest,
Well, to
that's
an extent,
unreal.
well, realistically, yes, you are. Your rights are protected. But I'm telling you right now, the internet would have broke if they'd have sent Brian Koberger to Idaho State Prison to await trial and brought him to court for hearings shackled in dirty orange suits. It would have been a whole different ball game. But nobody was looking at Rick Allen coming to court looking like that because they were too busy looking at, that guy over there in Idaho getting the railroad.
Right.
When
I
it could
thought
have been the guy in
too,
Delphi the whole
if they
time.
would have taken Koberger right to a prison, man, people be rioting.
You know it, they would have. You know they would have. But, well, I'm going to go, guys. I got to get some rest. I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm streaming Lori
Well,
Vallow's
before you leave,
trial.
Sophie, before you leave, can you guess who this gentleman is on the panel?
Jeff, we know that rock star anywhere, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Salty. I enjoy your channel, enjoy your thoughts.
Oh, well,
And in
thank
no
you.
way were we trying to say that, anything hateful to you earlier. We were
Oh
just,
no, earlier
I
I
think
came in, I'm like, what are
everybody,
they talking about? A gun? Where, what video? Where'd y'all see this shit? Then
I
I'm
think
realizing,
everybody was kind of confused. You know what I
well,
mean?
it's when you start talking about a video and stuff, I'm like, just tell me where this video, what did you see actually,
Right.
So I know what you're talking about, because now that I know where it came from, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to see it or anything. There's nothing on there that's going to change my mind about anything. I promise you that.
Right.
So
Well, you
anyway,
have a good night, Salty. Thank you for being up
thank
here.
you. You're
All right.
welcome.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Well, we've had some guests up here that had some valuable insight and some good thought pattern. Um, and it's been an interesting evening to say the least. I mean, we've gone all over the place, and this is kind of what happens when we just have an impromptu live like this. It kind of goes into a different direction, but sometimes we got to have these instead of those, very drawn out specific ones. Um, yeah, this is Mr. Jeff H. And I don't have one of these. I made one on Facebook, but it got my color tone wrong. So. What do y'all think of this doll? Y'all think it's pretty slick? Does that look like the man, the myth, the legend? Two Flames Cult now. I don't know what that means. Jeff, are you in here? Let me text him and let him know that I'm talking about him. I hope you guys have had a good evening with us. It's never meant to be harmful or hateful in any way whatsoever. Because, we try to have a good time. Try to have a good time when we're talking about cases. And most of the time, like I said, tomorrow's a Monday. The morning I hit the ground running, I'm talking true crime, not true crime, but I'm talking about real crime, talking about real criminals. I'm talking about real sanctions and real stuff, counseling stuff, all kinds of stuff. So it's always good just to have a day where you can take it lightly. And I used to do Serenity Sunday, but I got a little bit sidetracked. And I want to tell you guys, last night was a full moon, so 3 days before and 3 days after, which were on the first day back toward the tide coming back in. Um, it's going to be a little rocky. You might feel a little sleepy. You might feel a little off edge. You know, so be aware of that and try not to be taking anything really serious that you don't have to. And I hope that y'all enjoyed this because I enjoy presenting it. It's always fun. Can never figure out where I want to put myself. I don't think I will. I don't think I will be back on tonight since it's already 9 o'clock. Jesus, where did the time go? It's already 9 o'clock. Been on here 2 hours. That is just crazy. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful night. I'm gonna leave you with something. I really like this show right here.
There's curse alive coming! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Go.